What's up YouTube? Welcome to a new video. Suppose I described you as laconic, or maybe obdurate. Do you know what these words mean? Or maybe I ask you, which is bigger? The smallest prime number that's greater than 24, or the largest prime number that's less than 28? Could you answer it in roughly 2 minutes? It's questions like these that appear on the Graduate Record Examination, or the GRE. So what is a GRE? GRE is a standardized test that's required here in the US by pretty much all graduate schools, regardless of the field of study. So if you're applying for physics or maybe English literature, you'll probably have to take the GRE. There are three main parts to the GRE. There's the math section, aka quantitative reasoning. There's the English section, aka verbal reasoning, and then there's the essay section, which is analytical writing. So for the math section, there are basically two parts, and there are 20 questions in each part, and you have 35 minutes to complete each part. The same thing goes for English. You have two parts, each one is 20 questions, but this time you have 30 minutes for each part. And then there's a bonus round, where there's one more part. It's either English or math, but you don't know beforehand. This part is ungraded, and it's made up of questions that ETS are sort of testing on you so that they can figure out whether they could use it in future exams or not. So when you're taking the exam, you have no idea which is the ungraded one and which is the graded one, so you just have to do your best on all the parts. Lastly, there are the two essays that you have to write. Each one you have 30 minutes to finish. The first essay focuses on analyzing an issue, whereas the second essay focuses on analyzing an argument. So on the issue essay, you have to write an essay whether you agree or disagree with a certain stance. And then on the argument essay, you have to write an essay where you analyze someone's argument. You basically say where the argument is strong, where it's weak, try to find flaws or strengths in it, and then write about that. Okay, so now we know the structure of the GRE. How do we go about studying for it? The first thing you want to do, and I always recommend this for any standardized test, is to get a practice test. There are tons of them online, and sit down and do the test under test conditions. So in the case of the GRE, if it's 3 hours and however many minutes, you have to sit down for 3 hours and however many minutes and just take the test under test conditions. That way, you'll figure out if you're going too fast, if you're going too slow, what are your weaknesses. Don't just, cheat while you're doing it, because you're only cheating yourself. The other thing is starting early. If you're taking the exam next week, that's bad. There's no time to study. But if you know you're taking it 6 months from now, then even if you don't have time in one particular day to study, then you can space it out over the 6 months in small intervals. So you took a practice test and you figured out that actually you did really well on the math, but not so well on the English. Well, now you know what your focus is. You want to focus on the English and maybe just do math problems here and there. Don't focus too much time on the math because you're already good. Or maybe you did really well on the English, but bad on the math. Or maybe you just butchered the whole thing and you did bad on both of them. The point is, now you know what to focus on. So let's say you did bad on math, and you haven't seen math in a long time. Maybe your major doesn't involve math classes, and you want to just get back into it. You're rusty. The best thing you could do to learn the math is to do the problems. You'll be surprised at how many problems are just recycled from old exams or the practice exams that you're going to see online. So the idea is, once you learn the concept, maybe you've forgotten the concept, say combinatorics, probability, statistics, maybe you went to Khan Academy, you're refreshing the concepts. Now it's time to do the actual problems. You want to do a lot of them. So as many practice tests as you can find online or practice questions, go do all of those. And then you'll notice that there's a pattern here, that many problems are just recycled. It also really helps to figure out different ways to approach a problem. So online, there are resources that give you practice questions, and then they explain how to do the problems. Sometimes you get new insights on how to do a problem quicker than your usual way. And remember, these questions are the high school level, probably below pre-calc, so algebra, statistics, trigonometry, and geometry. So if something doesn't make sense to you, it's probably because someone didn't explain it right. There are tons of resources online where you could just go and learn something from a fresh perspective, and usually they teach you much better than what you've actually learned in class. On the other hand, say you did well on math and you're set. Now you want to improve your English. So That was me. I was in this boat. When I took the practice test, I noticed that I did really well on math, but I did not do well on the English. So what did I do? I noticed that I was doing well on the paragraph analysis questions, but my vocabulary was very limited. So I downloaded a Magoosh app. It's called Vocabulary Builder or something like that. And then I just started learning new vocabulary words. I didn't spend too much time learning too many words. I just focused on the top 100, 200 most common words because you're going to see those a lot, while the rare words will barely make an appearance. And I did not really want a really high score in English. I was just going for a good score because applying for physics, they want to look at your quantitative reasoning more than they want to look at your verbal reasoning. So I put more emphasis on scoring high in math versus English. But nevertheless, if you want a good English score, you have to learn that vocabulary. And here's a pro tip. When you're doing the exam, you'll notice that sometimes you don't know what a word means, but from the context, you can figure it out. So make sure you're aware of the context when you're reading certain questions and try to figure out what the word means from the context. Doing well on the writing section is not that hard theoretically, because basically what you have to write is a thesis statement in your introduction where you maybe include 3 points, and then each paragraph expands on each point, and then in your final paragraph you just write a conclusion, and that is almost guaranteed to be a good essay. Now, of course, you're also graded on the cogency of your arguments and how well you respond to the prompt, so that goes back to you. But basically, when you're writing the essay, make sure to hit that thesis statement, write those points in that thesis statement, and then expand in your paragraphs, and then finally write a conclusion. All right, so now that we've spoken about the GRE, what it is, the structure, how to study for it, let's ask questions about the GRE. Do we really need it? Is it effective? Well, there are a few studies that have shown that the GRE is actually not effective in predicting grad school success, and I'll link one in the description. Not only that, but the GRE also costs money. So not only are you paying an application fee when you're applying to grad school, you also have to pay to take the GRE, and then you have to pay more money to send it to schools. So it's a lot of money just for a standardized test. So a lot of schools are recognizing this. They're moving away from the GRE. Many of them now do not require the GRE. Some of them make it optional. So when you're applying to grad school, make sure you look over the schools and make sure to see which one does and does not require the GRE. So that's it for this video. If you have any thoughts on the GRE, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about study tips and how to get better scores, also let me know in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.